Hi again, everybody. Here's my attempt to um, walk you through the next set of poems with as little rambling as possible, as quickly as possible, but hopefully still giving you some helpful insights. So we're going to go through identity poems. Hopefully you've gone through the identity PowerPoint. I really do think these poems are going to be much more accessible to you than the first set, the Carpe Diem poems. Most of the Carpe Diem poems were, at least the first half or so, were written a few hundred years ago, so the language was older, and that was tougher. I think it was a tougher theme overall. But I mean, identity, you look through the PowerPoint, think about your own identity, think about what goes into it, think about who you are who you are, what has shaped you. And that's kind of the stuff we're looking for in these poems. How do the speakers of the poems, remember poems have speakers, not narrators, how do they define themselves? How do they express themselves? And do we, I guess necessarily, is how they present themselves to us, how we see them. So without further ado, let's get into poem set two. I just made a poem. This is an awesome poem by Langston Hughes. Read his bio. He's an amazing person. Theme for English B. Um, I don't. I guess I could plan ahead what I'm going to say on each of these poems, but it's kind of tough because there's so much I want to say, and simultaneously so much I want you to just read it and experience. So I'm going to just try to, I think, give you pointers on how to read it. And with these identity poems, like I said, I think they're a lot more straightforward. So this one is: the speaker received an assignment from his instructor. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you, and then it will be true." So here's the speaker's answer. He talks about who he is, where he's from, how this stuff defines him, focuses on race, focuses on you. The you in this poem is obviously the instructor. Um, so what things do you notice? I'm not sure I mentioned this in the previous little video, and I probably should have. But the first things I do, at least when reading poems, is I look for obvious things without things I can do without even reading. Let's see, one line, four lines. This is. It doesn't look like there's a set number of lines per stanza. The stanzas aren't a standard length lines. We have a couple longer stanzas, and then it gets to shorter. So later I can look at maybe why might this be shorter and these be longer. Um, so that's just a visual thing I'm looking for. I look for rhyme. So said would be A. Right would be B. Tonight rhymes with right. That would be B. You would be C. True would be C. Okay, so the instructor's directions at least are rhyming couplets, two lines in a row that rhyme. Simple, Salem, here, Salem, Harlem, maybe I could go Salem, Harlem, maybe. Class, I don't think that rhymes with anything yet, right? So we're on G. Uh, Harlem, E again. Nicholas, G, H, and Y. Elevator, page, me, what, you, page, who. There's some rhyme, but I'm not going to go through and label the whole poem. Just from what I've done so far, I'm not noticing any pattern. So to me, that's an inconsistent rhyme, but there is rhyme in some places. So later on, when I answer question two about what choices did the poet make, well, he chose to not use a standard um, structured rhyme scheme, but he did make some rhymes line. Why might he have chosen that? Why you and who? Why, I don't know, I can find other rhymes in here, but why certain parts but not others? What did that do for the poem? Um, let's see, I noticed what, in terms of content, I tried to notice words that the speaker uses, because we're focusing on identity again. How does the speaker define himself? What things does he focus on? What does this say about who he is? Sometimes just the things people use to define themselves tell us something about them. If I just told you to define myself, my career and how much money I make, and my status in my career, I'm leaving out, think of all the other things you learned about me in the PowerPoint. Just by defining myself by those things, I've let you know something about me as well. So think about all that with all of these poems. One other thing I want to say on this poem, so getting ahead to the other assignment, not the weekly posting where you're responding to the poem, but thinking about the paper for this unit where you are rewriting a poem and making it yours. To me, this couple semester, I think I've been doing this 3 semesters now with this assignment. The 3 semesters I've been doing this, it has blown me away that students don't choose this poem. By no means do you have to. I just look at, if I were doing this assignment, oh my God, this would be such an easy one to rewrite. It's written as if a teacher gave a student an assignment and he went home and wrote about himself. Turn this poem and just make it about you, and all of a sudden you finished your one poem rewrite for poem set two. Um, Obviously, you'd have to explain what the original speaker did and how he did it, and then what you did to change it, and how and why you did it. But to me, this is one of the easiest poems to rewrite for the actual longer, I guess, essay assignment, paper assignment, not really an essay, paper. Noiseless Patient Spider by Walt Whitman. I noticed 2 stanzas. I noticed each stanza has exactly 5 lines. I'm going to later go through rhyme. Another thing I just realized I haven't mentioned, I usually count syllables too. I have a terrible ear, so you can't see me doing this, but I'm counting on my fingers. A noiseless patient spider. A noiseless patient spider. 7 syllables. I marked where on a little promontory it stood isolated. I think that was 17. I'm running out of fingers. Um, so I'm going to try to see if there's any pattern for syllable length. I mean, just obviously this line is a lot shorter than these. This line is a lot shorter than these. Why might each line at the beginning of the stanza be shorter? The main thing I think to notice for this one is the extended metaphor. This is all about a spider. This is about you, oh my soul. This is a speaker reflecting inwardly and looking at his soul, um, and comparing it to the spider. Look for parallels between the things the spider does, even the words used, vacant vast surroundings, measureless oceans of space, and how his soul feels. I would argue this one is about a speaker kind of soul searching, and he's lost and he's trying to find his place in the world. Yet there isn't a tone of frenzy and despair in this one to me. That seems peaceful, serene, hopeful, and I'm not going to point you to all the words that I think do that, because I want you to come up with your own interpretation. But what I think about when I think about this one is the poem from the first set, In the Long Haul. That's a speaker who's also lost and soul searching. Isn't quite the right word, maybe, because that speaker is in a panic. I think the last lines, if I remember correctly, are something like in desperation, in frenzy, in despair. So think of the tone of that poem versus this poem. See how the mood is different and how that affects um, how the speaker's presenting himself, what his mindset state is. Oh my God, this one's great. I want to read this whole one out loud, but I won't. I promise. I'm going to read some of it though. Just listen to the pace of this. Um, I mean, again, do all the noticing of rhyme and rhythm. This one has so much internal rhyme, so that's rhyme instead of just at the end of a line, but in the middle of a line, and just the lines are short. So it was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by a sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her highborn kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels not half so happy in heaven when envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in the kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. I'll stop there, but I mean, I can't read this out loud, if you can't tell, without getting more intense as it goes. I think that's because it's written that way, not just the content that I think we are seeing a speaker become more unhinged. I think the language forces that. The fact that there are short lines makes us read it fast. The fact that there is so much rhyme and internal rhyme, when we read rhyme, our rhythm picks up, it makes things flow. So all of that, the rhythm, the repetition, the rhyme, I think all of that is helping to emphasize the speaker's frantic mind state. I mean, I think this is such a great poem, a sad one, because I think it's where we're seeing someone descend into madness if he's not already there. Um, Look at how he elevates his love. I mean, to the level that the reason she died is heaven. The angels were jealous. He's talking about huge things: heaven and hell, demons and angels. So elevating his love to really epic proportions. Um, Repetition of beautiful Annabelle Lee, of beautiful Annabelle Lee. So I think you can do a lot with this one. This is a fun one to rewrite. If anyone tries to rewrite this one for the paper, just to try some fast-paced rhythm. Um, Again, you don't have to write it about Annabelle Lee. You make it your own. Write about, I don't know, your long lost love or your childhood puppy, or I don't know, whatever. Moving on. Bilingual, bilingue. Um, okay, some easy things to notice how it's written. There, aware, heart, part, name, claim. We have rhyming couplets. There are uh, nine stanzas of rhyming couplets. Weird. Hey, look, without even reading this, I noticed that there are a bunch of parentheses, and I noticed that how come all those words have red marks on them? Oh, they're Spanish. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, you might look these up. Allá and aquí, here and there. Corazón is heart. Nombre is name. Y basta means enough. Mundo y palabra, the world and the word. Some of it's already translated in the poem. Stubborn, testaruda. So actually, it's all translated in the poem. I guess you can get it. But look at um, how does the speaker identify? I think this poem in class we would talk about, is this poem mainly about the speaker or the speaker's father or both and their relationship? How is that relationship shown throughout the poem? How do we get a sense of who the speaker is and who her father is in the poem? So a lot you can do with this one. For any of you who are non-native speakers, this is a real popular one to choose to rewrite for that unit 2 paper where you're rewriting a poem and making it your own. I think this one hits home for a lot of people. The Unknown Citizen. Um, this is, make sure you get the tone of this poem. I don't think this is a happy poem. Look at who does it seem like this is written by. Um, if anyone's read 1984 Brave New World, think that type of kind of speaker. What are we learning about this person? Does it actually tell us anything about the person and his personality? And I mean, the ending to this really brings that home. Was he free? Was he happy? The question is absurd. Had anything been wrong, we should certainly have heard. I do think the tone of this one is very playful. I Fudge Motors Inc. It's it's lighthearted, but it's making a more serious point. It's almost like a satire or a parody, if you will. I don't think anyone's ever chosen to rewrite this one, so I'd like to see that. But I think this one is pretty straightforward in terms of the language. I see a lot of long lines. I see only one stanza aside from the opening, and that's important. To JS07M378. That's the speaker. Not the speaker. That's the subject of the poem. That's who the speaker is talking about. How come it's not a name? How come it's letters and numbers? Um, this one is again pretty straightforward. Um, I think this one, if you were going to relate to this one, look at who Jorge is, how he defines himself, and how he's defined by other people. Some fantastic images in here and metaphors. I would focus on those. Um, and yeah, I think this one pretty straightforward, nice and short, and no real hard language. This is an interesting one for students to rewrite if you can relate it all. It could be any job you've had, whether you've liked it or not. If you love your job, you can rewrite this one and write it from that perspective. But if you've had a job where you have felt at all like Jorge, you can kind of rewrite this poem in your own perspective. My first job ever was working at Taco Bell, so I could turn this into a poem, working what it was like working at Taco Bell. I can, but again, it doesn't have to be negative and miserable. I can change the tone and make it my own however I want. Um, but for the weekly assignment, you're just focusing on those two questions. What do you notice? And then what choices did the author make? So basically, why did he do those things you noticed? Can you make connections between those things you noticed and what the author's purpose was? How did that enhance or help to contribute to his theme? am I doing on time? Oh, geez, I'm on 14 minutes. I could spend another half an hour just talking about this poem. We could analyze one page of this poem for a whole class period. Um, in brief, I give you the note up here. That's pretty much it. I would say read this like it's. I hated this poem. Now I love it. I think it expresses what it's like to be a modern man, someone who is caught in his own head, someone who is insecure and self-conscious almost to the point of not definitely self-conscious to the point of not being able to actually engage with other people, interact with other people, and be present in the moment. Um, the long stanzas are popular, or separated by "In the Room, Women Come and Go," talking of Michelangelo. Excuse me. The long stanzas are the speaker in his own head. These are what is actually going on at the party he's going to. Think of this as a guy psyching himself up to go to a party. Let us go then, you and I. Um, Talking to himself, talking to his own mind. It's like, okay, Adam, okay, I'm nervous. I'm gonna go to this party. I'm gonna talk to this girl. This girl's gonna be there. I have a crush on her. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Let's do this. Come on, we can do this. Okay, okay. I'm gonna go and ask a question. No, no, no. Don't even think about what the question is yet. Just wait. Don't stress yourself out. And then I walk through. This is a description of the scene I'm walking through, and I have to psych myself up. And okay, there's gonna be time. There's gonna be time. Don't worry. I'll get to prepare a face to meet the faces I meet. Should I walk in and be like, hey, everybody, how's it going? Or should I be like, good evening, friends? Or how am I going to do? What are people going to feel like when they see me? And oh my God, the words he uses in this a lot emphasize epic proportions. This simple task of going and meeting and talking to a woman have become all absorbing for this guy. This is his whole world. There will be time to murder and create. Murdering and creating is just talking about, okay, which personality should I put on? Which guy should I be when I go there? I this is a great line. Do I dare disturb the universe by me going and asking a question, a simple question to a girl? I could potentially disturb the entire universe because I'm so self-absorbed, so preoccupied in my own head, so caught up in what's going on with me and my world. Um, the speaker's name is ridiculous. J. Alfred Prufrock kind of shows the almost the dichotomy between sophistication of J. Alfred Prufrock, someone who uses his middle name, and the ridiculousness of someone who is both intelligent but again caught in his own head and self-conscious. There's a lot of play here. The love song, I don't know that I would call this a love song, but this is the love song of the modern man, the man who can't connect to people, who is, I keep saying, trapped kind of in his own head, absorbed in his own self-conscious, solipsized. That's a good vocabulary word. Look that one up. And I mean, it goes on from there. So if you can read it from that vein, um, by all means, I hope you enjoy it. I think the reason I could enjoy it is because I could relate. Believe it or not, I used to be super shy and self-conscious. So I thought this did a great job expressing some of those feelings. It's actually a pretty sad poem when you get to the end of it. And I think that's going to about cover it because I recognize this is really long. I hope this helps. Questions, ask on the course questions board. You want to talk and have a kind of a one-on-one, by all means, give me a time and we can do Microsoft Teams and chat. And for now, just keep it up. Keep plugging away. Okay.